Hello, welcome, and thank you for listening to Pause for a Cause. I am your host, Macy, and joining us today will be animal enthusiast Maddie J. We are going to be talking about the ins and outs and causes and effects of adopting dogs from different places. Have you ever wondered what was in your dog's food? Because I know I do. But since I've switched to Bark and Bite Organics, I don't have to wonder anymore. Bark and Bite Organics is an all-natural dog food brand that has an easy-to-read ingredients list so that you never have to question what food you give your dog. You can get a 30% discount if you visit bnborganics.com and enter the promo code Pause for a Cause. Again, that is bnborganics.com with the promo code Pause for a Cause. How many dogs do you think there are in the U.S.?
Well, I'm not exactly sure. I'm sure there's a few million.
89.7 million. How many do you think are put in shelters every year?
Ooh, maybe a couple million?
Yeah, 3.2 million. And how many do you think are euthanized every year?
Ooh, probably a small percentage. I don't think euthanasia is very widespread.
About 390,000 dogs are euthanized in shelters every year.
What do you think are some of the main causes for that large number?
Well, I think the biggest reason is probably overcrowded shelter, but another thing that contributes to that is Craigslist sales. According to the ASPCA, only 23% of dogs are adopted from shelters, and 44% of dogs are adopted from other sources such as Craigslist.
Wow, Craigslist? How does Craigslist affect the number of dogs being euthanized in shelters?
Well, people a lot of the times prefer finding dogs on Craigslist instead of adopting from shelters or humane societies.
Well, why would they do that?
Well, because Craigslist is often viewed as easier because you don't need to go through any background checks, you don't need to sign any papers, and you can find more of the dog breeds that you might want. In addition to all that, a lot of the times the people selling the dogs or puppies will meet you halfway so you don't have to travel far.
Well, wouldn't it be good to do background checks?
I agree that it would be much better if there were background checks. There was one unfortunate example of how Craigslist dog rehoming went really bad. Have you heard the story about Puppy Doe?
No, what is that?
Well, there's this lady, Laura Hankins, who had a dog named Kia. She needed to find another home for Kia, so Laura put up an ad on Craigslist, and the dog was bought by another person. Laura was shocked when she saw a news story about her dog being horribly beaten and tortured to the brink of death. In the end, a good Samaritan found Kia in Quincy Park, and Kia was euthanized due to the severity of her wounds.
Oh my god, that's terrible.
I know, it's a horrible, scary story.
Did Craigslist officials have anything to say about this? It sounds like it was a pretty big deal.
Well, CEO Jim Buckmaster claims that Craigslist isn't the problem. In a blog post, he said, "Monsters do exist and will find victims regardless." He doesn't feel that Craigslist having no regulations on selling and buying animals is a problem.
Well, how else does Craigslist contribute to overfilling shelters?
Well, there are some people who will buy dogs for cheap prices, breed them, and sell the puppies to make a profit. The problem with this is that there have been too many examples where the living situations are not good for the dogs, and then they receive no medical treatment before they're sold.
Oh no.
It's not only bad for the puppies to receive no medical attention, but it's also illegal to sell the puppies without proper medical care.
Well, how does this cause shelters to overfill?
Well, people will often go to Craigslist for puppies instead of going to humane societies or shelters. Then the puppies and dogs that are in the shelters don't get adopted. The money that the breeders get also fund them to get more dogs to breed, so then they just keep making more money.
Do you have any examples of this?
Well, there was this woman named Wanda Mullis who is being investigated by John Dolores, who is a part of Jacksonville's Animal Care and Control Division. Wanda has been finding free puppies, breeding them, and selling the litters of puppies. She never lets anyone see where the puppies are living, and there have been multiple accounts of people who bought puppies that needed to be treated for parasites. After a few incidents, Wanda finally allowed investigators to go into her home. However, she had cleared everything out by the time they got there. They reported a lot of empty cages in filthy rooms, but there were no puppies on the site. Wanda was given 3 citations, 2 for selling puppies without a state health certificate, and 1 for failing to display a city license tag. Are you looking for a new pet bed? Well, look no more. Restful Tales is the perfect brand for a comfortable, durable, affordable, and heavenly soft pet bed. These beds come in 12 different sizes and 6 different colors to match each of your fuzzy friend's needs. You can get one today for 25% off and with free shipping if you go to restfultales.com and enter the promo code Pause for a Cause. Again, that is restfultales.com with the promo code Pause for a Cause.
Wow, well, I'm curious now, what types of dogs have the highest euthanasia rate?
Well, sadly, older dogs have a 75% euthanasia rate. Only 25% of older dogs are adopted in comparison to the 60% adoption rate of younger dogs. I honestly think a lot of people prefer younger dogs because they get more time with them. But even old dogs deserve a happy ending, and most of the old dogs I've met at shelters have been calm, sweet, loving dogs just looking for a good home.
Wow, well, what could we do about these problems?
Well, I think that if Craigslist had some more regulations in place, that would solve a lot of the problems. I think if Craigslist was to work through and with humane societies, then it would make adopting puppies a lot better. Then the humane societies and shelters could do background checks on the seller and buyer. And if those regulations were in place, then illegal puppy breeding numbers would go way down. And then with that, the euthanization rates would go down. And honestly, the more dogs that are adopted from shelters, the more spots that will open up.
Wow, well, all of that sounds amazing. I'd never really thought about Craigslist being a problem that contributes to overpopulated shelters.
Yeah, it's one of the main contributing factors, and I believe that even though Craigslist may be an easy way to buy a dog, humane societies, shelters, and pet stores are far more ethical and reliable. And if adopting from shelters lowers the euthanasia rates, then why isn't everyone adopting from them? My hope is that people will hear this message and feel the conviction to do something to help lower the euthanasia rates, because every single life matters and every dog deserves a good home. Well, that's all for today, but be sure to come back next week. I'm going to be discussing the overpopulation of street cats and what can be done to stop overpopulation and keep those kittens safe. Have a wonderful week, and thanks for listening. This episode is sponsored by Bark & Bite Organics and Restful Tales. For any further information and sources, please refer to the show notes.